You're more than your sun sign. I'm a Virgo, and if I were only a Virgo, according to the popular belief, I would just spend all my days in the library with my spectacles perched on my nose going, shh! So a sun sign is like a stick figure drawing of yourself. Like maybe it's gonna kind of look like you, but it's mostly just gonna look like a stick figure. Now, what is the birth chart exactly? The birth chart is a picture of the sky from the place that you were born at the time that you were born, and it includes the positions of the sun, the moon, and each of the planets. Each of these represents a different part of consciousness or a different dimension of experience, and the way that they relate to one another shows how these come together in your life. And the whole effect of this is to create a much more detailed portrait of your life than just the sun sign can give you. My first birth chart reading changed my life. Like, it completely blew me away. Like, how did this stranger, just holding a piece of paper, know all of these things about me? Like really, really intimate details, just this kind of deep recognition. I'd never experienced anything like it. And, this sense of validation and recognition is definitely one of astrology's gifts, but it's only the beginning. I think astrology's real gift is the way that it teaches us to know ourselves and to know the universe in an entirely new way. In astrology, the sky symbolizes everything. Literally anything that you can experience will have a symbolic correlation in the sky. This is because each of the planets represents a vast field of possible meaning, and this field of meaning will cut across all kinds of levels of existence. So astrology can work for, of course, your personality traits, but also historical periods, natural phenomena, works of art. It even works for your pets. So let's take a quick look at how this works with some concrete examples. If we look at the planet Neptune, the planet Neptune corresponds to a field of meaning having to do with transcendence, with spirituality, with imagination, dreams, visions, inspiration. It's got a kind of soft, diffuse sort of effect. It kind of melts whatever it touches. Now, if we look at another planet, Venus is about love, about harmony, about beauty. So Venus connects to anything to do with relationships, whether it's intimate relationships or friendships, and also art, pleasure. This is all Venus territory. Now, when we combine two planets, their qualities influence one another. They will awaken the qualities of each other in their own way. So if we put Venus and Neptune together, Neptune's going to Neptunify Venus, and Venus is going to Venusify Neptune. They're going to combine kind of like notes in a musical chord. So Venus-Neptune alignments have to do with a kind of like divine love, or mystical love, or love of the imagination, or a kind of idealization of love and beauty. Also a feeling of kind of melted ecstasy where you sort of dissolve your being into another's. So now let's take a look at two different writers who were each born with Venus-Neptune alignments. And we're going to look at two quotes from them that really convey the sense of Venus-Neptune that I just described. But they're going to do so differently, because one of them was born with the sun aligned with these two planets, and the other was born with the moon aligned with these two planets. So we'll take a look at what that means. Now, John Keats, the poet, who was born with the sun aligned with these two planets, writes, "I am certain of nothing but the holiness of the heart's affections and the truth of the imagination." So right there we can see the Venus-Neptune qualities of idealized love, of love of the imagination. But at the same time, we also have the solar qualities of truth and certainty. Because the sun, if you just think about what the sun is, it is the clear light of day. This is why in astrology the sun connects to our self-aware consciousness, our ego, our identity. Okay, so Sun, Venus, Neptune has this kind of solar tinge on Venus, Neptune. If we go to another example, Anais Nin, who was born with the moon, Venus, Neptune, we're going to shine a different light, literally, on Venus, Neptune. We're going to shine moonlight on it instead of sunlight. And it's going to come across in a different way. But it will still be Venus, Neptune. Now she says, do not seek the because. In love there is no because, no reason, no explanation, no solutions. Now again, we have the Venus-Neptune quality of idealized love. And also the Venus-Neptune quality of a kind of melted love, right? Where you're totally immersed in it. But here the lunar quality of irrationality is dominant, whereas before it was the solar quality of rationality, of truth and certainty, right? Now the moon, unlike the sun, connects to our inner being. It's the emotional, intuitive level of our being. So here we have this sense that there is no reason for love, right? It just is. It just takes you over. And in the sun version of Venus, Neptune, there's the sense that it's the highest truth, the highest certainty. So things like this happen all the time with astrology. These are not unique examples, but they do a good job of showing how a certain quality can come through, but then come through in different ways depending on other planets or bodies that are aligned, right? So this is the whole thing. It's in the same way that the same 12 notes go together to make up every piece of music you've ever heard. Well, the same 10 planets, including the sun and the moon, which in astrology we call planets, go together to create everything you've ever experienced. So there are different ways to use astrology. Yes, astrology can be a great personality system. And yes, it can be used to a certain degree for fortune telling, but with mixed success. But if we're using it for these purposes only, we're really limiting ourselves. Because think about it. Astrology can unlock the mysteries of the universe. It can literally open us up to everything. So the only limits that we have with astrology are the limits to our own imagination. And if we are only concerned with our own personality or things that are going to happen to us, that's where we're living, right? Now, I see astrology in its highest sense as a tool for awakening. It really asks some pretty deep questions of us, or it moves us to ask some pretty deep questions, to go, okay, if the planets are reflecting myself back to me in this way, well, what does that say about me? And what does that say about the universe? What does that say about the nature of consciousness and its place in the structure of the universe? What does that say about the powers of my own consciousness and my own powers to act and to create? If we start asking these questions and using astrology as a way to see through the everyday as we've known it, then we start to really wake up to higher dimensions of consciousness. And when we do this, then we really know a new kind of freedom. This is what awakening is all about, and this is, I think, the best way that we can use astrology. If we're only using it to get answers to very basic questions, it's understandable, right? It's an uncertain world, right? We want answers. We want something to hold on to. But ultimately, if we're living from that place and we're using this powerful tool to reinforce those stories of lack and of fear, then we're not really doing ourselves a service. So if you're used to the old brand of Pisces is dreamy, Scorpio is crazy, Libra is nice, and Leo is lazy brand of astrology, I suggest you get a reading. You can check out my website, 21stcenturyalchemy.com, to learn more about specials that I've got for the holidays. I've got readings marked down $50, and then if you get 3 or more, you're going to get a further $25 off per reading. So once again, it's 21stcenturyalchemy.com, and those are all spelled out in words. And hope to see you soon.